Recording. All right. Welcome everyone to another episode of Geek Vibes Interview brought to you by Geek Vibes Nation. I'm your host, Dom Fisher, and today I have with me two familiar faces. The first you've seen in Born to Kill, Peaky Blinders, and Knots and Crosses, while the other you've seen in Bad Day for the Cut, Behold the Lamb, I Never Cry, and Game of Thrones. Here today to talk about the upcoming movie Boys from County Hell, which premieres on April 22nd on Shudder. Welcome Jack Rowan and Nigel O'Neill. How you guys doing?
Hello, hello.
I'm doing
Good.
great. Hello there.
Cheers for having us, Dom.
Yeah, I appreciate you
Absolutely.
guys taking the time. So I think first I'll jump off with how you guys been doing during this whole pandemic. You know, it's affected everyone.
Yeah, it's been mental, man, but it feels like we're on the last stretch now. Looking toward there's light at the end of the tunnel. It's been stressful for everyone, but I suppose from a personal point of view, it's been I don't know. I've just tried to enjoy every day, give myself enough to get up for and focus on, even if it's something like even a video game. Do you know what I mean? Or it's something to just get your focus on. But now, we're in a new year, ready to go with actually life.
Yeah, I agree. It was a good time to reflect on things and just slow down for a bit, just because life is very fast and very quick and, it's just crazy. So it didn't do any harm that way, but I think we've all had enough had enough of it now, really. So, but as Jack says, it's the light at the end of the tunnel. So hopefully we're going somewhere, all been well. We're getting there.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because it's one of those. I think recently I noticed that it was bad, but then you found the good in it where you could focus on things you couldn't focus on before. So it's kind of there was a lot of silver linings that I didn't think there would be there beforehand.
Yeah.
But
And
I'll get jumping. Oh yeah, go ahead.
we have to adapt, right? We just have to adapt as time goes on. But I feel like as we'll all kind of not take things for granted perhaps so much when we have that normality back. Even simple things like sitting somewhere and having a meal with a friend, like they're the things that perhaps we would have taken for granted beforehand, but definitely not now.
You're right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a different world from here on out. So I'll give a quick synopsis of the film. Strange events unfold in 6 Mile Hill, a sleepy Irish town that claims to have been traveled by the famed author Bram Stoker. When construction on a new road disrupts the alleged grave of Arbitok, legendary Irish vampire said to have inspired Dracula, deadly and sinister forces terrorize the work crew led by Francie Moffat and his son Eugene, a free-spirited young man who prefers pints to pickaxes, and they're forced to fight to survive the night while exposing the true horror that resides in the town's local myth. It's a long synopsis, but I got it.
I love the way you say Eugene, Dom.
Yeah.
I love the way you say.
Points over pickaxes. I'll take that. It's true in real life as well.
So, prior to the film, were you guys a fan of horror literature or film?
Me, I prefer I like the sort of Friday the 13th, Halloween, all that stuff. I real loved that sort of slasher movie where there's one crazy guy on the loose. I much prefer that. In terms of supernatural horror, I try and stay away from that, man. I think they're the ones that actually scare me the most. But I am sort of a fan of the ones where I can kind of go, yeah, it's not real. It's not real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I used to like the old Hammer horror films. It was they were English. They made in English studios way years ago in the 60s, probably. I think it was. They're old type horror, very theatrically type, but it was just something enjoyable. But I do like all sorts of horror. More so years ago. Not I don't watch as much as now as what I used to, but I do with this and all. It's been more interesting to explore it more. This crazy movie.
It's nice to watch horror with someone. It's much better to watch it with someone. You can at least lean on someone's shoulder.
I see. I've always kind of I guess I don't want to say embodied, but I've always been a big horror fan. So I kind of relish the moments where I'm in the house alone, lights off, and kind of just sit in it. Whether it's good for me or not. And Nigel, you're from Northern Ireland, correct?
Yes, I'm indeed. Yeah.
So yeah, I looked up the Arbuthnot, and I didn't realize that that was actually a folklore that really, like, the movie kind of opened up my eyes a little bit to, like, when I looked it up, I was like, oh, this is some folklore that existed. And I know prior to that, I had read Carmilla, which is also by an Irish author. So with Dracula, the Dracula lore, along with that, is that like an open wound in Ireland where you feel like we didn't get the credit for this story that blew up, and you know?
Well, we have lots of folklore over here in Ireland. There's lots of things like banshees. You ever hear tell of a banshee? You know, that sort of things. Like, there's lots of that sort of goes on, and I don't know. I believe. Don't know if I believe in it or anything. But it's. I don't know. I don't know if we've missed it or not. But Ireland's got loads of different towns. We're talented in different ways. I don't know. In many ways. So I don't know what. Where the whole we've got Dracula, the writer from Dracula is not right. They're actually was Irish as far as I remember. Yes, yeah. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. Maybe so. We missed out on many thing over here, but I don't know. Maybe that's another thing. I don't know.
What about you, Jack? Had you heard of this, Irish vampire prior to the movie?
No, not prior to the movie. I hadn't heard of it, but upon like getting the part and stuff, I sort of looked it up, but I didn't take much focus on it really. It didn't, because I suppose I more wanted to focus what was on the page. And these two fellas, Eugene and Francie, they sort of learn as they go on how to deal with this vampire. And you'd think chopping its head off would do the trick. No, it doesn't. You'd think sunlight, hopefully. Bram Stoker left us in the lurch, put it that way. And all this habitat. So, I didn't know about it before, but also didn't really didn't really study it too much, because I feel like to our story, to where we were, it didn't really matter too much, because it feels like in this town, we're famous for this thing, but we're all like, I don't know, even the characters don't know about it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the beauty of the movie, right? Is that we're all kind of learning about this new thing while also referencing Dracula, because that's the most popular vampire we know. And then, like you said, none of the stuff in Dracula works on this vampire. And your characters have a great chemistry that I think a lot of father and sons can kind of relate to, because especially if there's a bigger age gap, you have your salt of the earth dad who's like, look, you gotta be a man, and then you have like the new wave son who's like, I mean, I don't know, I don't know if I want to do this. So Jack, is there anything that you relate to with your character?
Absolutely. I relate to a lot from him. As I say, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'd say it's a good thing. But my dad is actually from Northern Ireland as well, so my dad is like, I don't know, the way the characters are written, it's very true to sometimes how Irish, father and son can bicker. And funny enough, my grandparents live only 5 minutes from Nigel, in like the smallest town possible in Ireland, So it was almost quite poetic that me and Nigel were father and son, because we're from this tiny little place, and we clock the mannerisms of the characters, and it comes to us very easily. But yeah, man, I enjoyed every second of playing Eugene, and it was fun. In the past, I've done a lot of serious stuff, a lot of dark stuff, so it was fun to actually whip on the messy overalls and just be a little bit of an idiot and be someone that I enjoy being that idiot. And I'd go back and I wouldn't change a thing. It was most fun I've ever had on a job.
What about you, Nigel? Did you relate to your character at all?
Very much so. Well, I'm a father, and I have a daughter same age as Jack, and I have a son as well. Francie and Eugene, there's characters like that. I see characters like that all over the years. I would have, when I was younger, my dad used to have old trucks, and he would take them to garages to get them repaired. And there would be a father working, a grumpy father who was mechanics who work with trucks always seem to be in bad form. And there's sons that are helping them out, not by choice, because the father says, come you out here and help me and do this work. And then they're shouting at each other. So I could see this from a young age. I could relate to it. So it was fun to then explore that when we get a chance to play it, because and it was so great with Jack and all, the fact that his parents or his grandparents are just literally a mile from here. It was so bizarre when I found that out. And it was lovely, but because I know his grandfather, and so we have this connection already. So and I believe we had this lovely connection. We all had from the first read through. It was so magical. It was just it was, as Jack says, it was such the loveliest job you could have been on. It was just every day you'd look forward, you jumped out of bed. Great, what are we going to do today? We're chopping off heads, or we're going to cut off legs, or we're going to kill someone. It's great.
Either or. I'm happy.
Or drive through a town. One of the best fun parts was driving through a town on a dump truck. That was just, I felt like I was 6 years old,
You sort of see people looking out their window like, what the hell is going on here? we're just leaning on this thing like, yeah.
Oh, man, it's great.
You could feel that chemistry, and that's crazy that's why I was part of the reason why I was there. So with there being that much chemistry, you guys being that close, was there any kind of pranks or hijinks that went on the set while you were shooting?
I'd say so, especially when Michael Hawke was around, the guy who played SP.
Yeah,
he is exactly like that. And even he's worse than that. Do you know what I mean? He's even so. But that, you know what? Chris Bohr, who directed and wrote the movie, like he set a nice environment where everybody was free to take risks and everyone was free to have fun. And as you say, sometimes when that does get when you see that on screen, it's kind of a good thing that there is that relaxedness there is them jokes. And yeah, I'd say we were always serious, don't get me wrong, whenever we had to be, but when we also had fun with it.
Yeah, and I think there's a certain like a refreshing feeling when I see any kind of Irish comedy, and I realize that it's coming more to the forefront. And I've seen a couple recent Irish movies, and I'm like, so this is the Irish's time to shine, to show this comedy. And so, what do you guys think that? And I'll start with you, Nigel. What do you think kind of sets Irish comedy apart from the rest of the world?
it's very Irish humor is very different than I think in all sorts of humor. It's all there's also there's English humor, there's American humor, everything's different. But Irish humor, I don't know what it is. We take we take the piss out of ourselves. You know what I mean? That sort of thing, and that comes across, I think, a lot in the film. There's a lovely balance, I think, with humor and horror. There's not too much of one or not too much of the other. There's a fine balance. You're going along one minute, you're laughing at this, and then there's a serious scene here, and so that's a nice balance as well. And we can we don't take ourselves too seriously. Well, I don't think we do. I mean, maybe some of us do, but I don't think we do over here. We're not too bad, I think.
Yeah, so it's a good place to be, man.
Yeah.
As I said, I grew up in England, but I always loved going to Ireland, summer holidays and stuff like that. So actually being able to go and do a movie in Ireland, it almost felt like I was connecting to them roots and connecting back to a place I hold so close to myself. And as Nigel said, the humor, I think there's also a lot of humor in the unsaid. There's sort of like an Irish person perhaps would watch our movie and clock a lot of nuances that they notice themselves in everyday life. Even as Nigel said, the mechanic, him and his son, just that bickering. You see it probably every day, probably, especially small towns as well. Yeah. I find in small towns, everyone knows each other. You can't walk down the street and without being introduced to someone, especially with someone like my granddad. My granddad is like, so, you'd think he's 25, he's got so much energy. He's always wearing shorts, even though it's cold. And like, you can't even walk down a small town without, come and see, come and meet this guy, and you stood there chatting. But yeah, good place.
And so the small town brings me to my next question. So the one thing I like about horror is it's able to tackle important societal issues in a way that's palatable, and whether it's like cautionary tales or some kind of monster. And I think this movie does a good job of the undertones of economic growth or gentrification to a small town where where there's the people and their land, or it's their historical sites, and that kind of the social commentary of that being a thing that's happening a lot of different places where you feel like, hey, this is where I grew up, my parents grew up here, and now you're gonna take it away or change it. Did you guys catch it, and did you experience any of those type of things growing up in, say, small towns?
Well, me not so much. I grew up in the city. You know, even right now, talking to you guys, like I'm in the heart of it. You know, so my growing up very different to that. You know, but going to Ireland, going to a small town, whenever I used to travel there, it was so different to London. Um, but as you say, people are very proud, you know, of where they come from, and I think that's a good thing. And with 6 Mile Hill in our story, which is obviously a fictional town, they're very proud of even if they don't know much about it, they're very proud of the Abertac story, and I think that is something that shines through. And even if sometimes you live in a town that perhaps can almost have you with one hand tied behind your back, it stops you having opportunity. I think if you talk to anyone, they'd still be proud of it. And I think the greatest stories are always those who come from a small place and spread their wings. And you know, me and Nigel are putting Coke on the map. That's our town. That's our little town that we're from in Northern Ireland. We're putting that on the map. There'll be statues of us there one day. Over, do you know what I mean? I think I answered the question. I think so.
Oh, well, I grew up in here, and we live just outside the village or the town of Coke, and we're out in the countryside here, so it's a different experience again. It was just our family here and my brothers, and we sort of had our own sort of just bubble as such, you know what I mean? So all our friends would have been at school or whatever, but you know, because we, as I say, we're a drive into the village. We're out in the countryside, but I know that feeling. You're still proud of where you come from. You know, you're always proud to say you're from here or whatever, from Ireland or Coke or whatever the case may be. You know, it's a nice thing. You know what I mean? It's where you grow up. It's where you're connected to. It's where your soul is. You know what I mean? It's a funny thing, but it's no matter when you're away. The thing about Ireland, well, everybody's the same probably, but when you're away somewhere, you go to all these beautiful places and cities and great places, but you always so when you get back home again, it's maybe this maybe it's because you get older. I don't know what it is, but when you get home again, it's just nice to be home. You feel grounded, you know, that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think, I guess that as cliche as it is, home is where the heart is. It always holds true.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you get times when you're, as you said, away from it. But that could be the case with the city. Like I miss London so much to the point where when I'm away, I even miss the walk home from like the kebab shop. You know what I mean? Which before being away, you're like, oh, look at this walk, can't be asked. Do you know what I mean? But then as soon as you're away, you're like, no, I miss that little detail that makes you feel, as you say, home is where the heart is. Cliches are cliches because they're true.
That's true. So I think one of the most standout scenes in the movie is the opening scene, and it kind of sets you up for like, oh, this is gonna get real. Are there any, without giving away too much, are there? Do you guys have any favorite scenes of yours? And I'll start with you, Jack.
I'm trying. I mean, everything. Like as I said before, I think Nigel mentioned it. Every day you read a scene, you're like, oh come on, I can't wait to actually do that. So for me, the whole movie is kind of like that. I love as one big scene. I'll cheat and go one big scene. I love it. But I do like this sort of. We get up to quite a lot of mischief and quite a lot of action sequences, and I did enjoy the action sequences. The sort of perhaps where the focus is not so much on the acting and the words, it's more about the physicality. And just like you can get home after a long day and just go, man, I fought a vampire today, or I was walking around, my prop was a baseball bat. You know, you're just like, these are things you can't do in normal life. So yeah, I just enjoyed the many action sequences that we did, and there's a lot of them.
There's a lot of no. It's quite a physical movie for us. For me, I was wrecked after it all, but it was great. As Jack says, all the physical scenes were, and we got to go down these shoots and all. Do you remember that, Jack? Go down the chute and all these sort of things. There was a scene where fighting a vampire, and it was great. And there's pulling and there's stunt guys there, and he's telling you can do this and do that other, and you're tied to ropes and all that stuff was brilliant. You never would dream you'd get to do all these things. So it was just crazy, you know. It was brilliant. It was just a great life experience. It really was.
And that stuff like kind of creates stories, like you're sitting there watching it with friends or family, and then me and Nigel can at least go, man, do you know what we had? That's us going down that chute. Don't get it twisted, you know, that's us doing that, you know, or that's us on that digger, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
just the sort of, we watch it on screen, and it's like many movies you watch on screen, you're like, oh yeah, that's just two people doing that. But you're able to go, no, we were attached with ropes and this and that. And I just think it's cool to be a nerd, and being geek, as you know, this is Geek Vibes, so this is a great, you know, platform where you go, you know, oh, you almost get like a kid again. You're like, this is what we did, and we had to do this and that.
Yeah,
And that's the beauty of filming.
yeah. There was stunt guys there. There was these guys who looked similar to me and Jack, you know, our build. And me and Jack would say, well, we're doing this. We're doing this. We were simple. There was no big, massive scenes where we're hanging up building or anything, but there were simple little things where you could have got hurt or whatever. But they were so good. They showed us what to do and how to do it safely. And we were just mad to get out.
Real up for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird to watch any kind of horror movie and afterwards be like, that was a fun movie. And then, you know, get people look at you like, it's a fun movie. Like, you have to see it. I don't know how to, you know, describe it all the way. Because yeah, I had a great time watching it. Is there anything that surprised you on set? Like when you first saw what you saw, you know, the vampire, because I know it kind of caught me off guard a little bit, and it doesn't happen very often. But I didn't know, I didn't have any kind of frame of reference for what it might look like, and then I was like, oh, okay. So did you, when you first saw it, did it kind of creep you out any?
Do you know what? It is creepy, man. And the guy, Robert, his name was, bless him, he was in makeup for hours upon hours, you know, like it was even, you know, we only use the guy for a certain amount of time, but each time he had to do a scene, it was 8 hours in, probably 4 hours to take off. So a lot of effort went in. But that's, you know, that's the thing with Boys from County Hell. From day one, it always knew what it was. It absolutely was true to itself. It doesn't try to be anything it's not. And I think that's why it's perfect. And I think Abatak was something they had to get perfect. And I'll never get this image out of my head. We were all sitting there and the sun was shining, and Abatak's just chilling there in the sun. Just like, yeah. And then that's another cool moment of, I suppose, filming. You can go, yeah, he looks all tough now, but he wasn't 5 minutes before that.
That's weird. Yeah. No, it's great. Yeah.
So I think I'll round it up a little bit. So with there being such chemistry and on set, and you have your, you know, one generation, other generation, with you two having worked so close with each other, is there anything that you guys learned from each other? You know, veteran actor to, you know, 5-6 years in with Jack.
Well, I was always in awe of Jack. You know, I was always Jack's half my age, and so every day I was just in awe of how he prepares for each scene and how he works as an actor. And you know, we and him would be sitting laughing our heads off 1 second, and then next we had a serious scene next, and he was there like that. So it's beautiful to watch other actors giving you so much that it makes what you do then easy to react off that. So I was surprised. Everybody on the set was good, but Jack and I had a lot of scenes together, and every day it was just, you know, it was giving me so much to work off and to react to, and it was. And then with the guidance of Chris and all, and putting it all, our director putting that all together, it just, to me, it felt there's some lovely moments we had. You know, we had one of our my favorite scenes is one of the final scene we have where, I don't want to give it away, but where Francie gets injured, shall we say? That, to me, that was lovely. It was very uncomfortable where we were, and it was a tough couple of days, but it was lovely. It was nice between the two characters. I thought it was nice. I enjoyed it. I really did.
And vice versa, man. Like, you know, you get to work with different people, all different ages, from all different parts of the world, and you know, like, you get to watch and take things in and learn stuff, even if you don't end up using it yourself. it's nice to, as Nigel said, see how different people prepare. And you know, I always felt like me and Nigel had a great connection, and I love him. You know, I love him so much. You know, I'm actually very proud. Again, I say it again, but the town we come from in Northern Ireland is so small and so petite. You know, and I just think immediately from that moment, I remember we were sharing a pint of Guinness at the hotel we were staying at, and we were like kids. The way we were like, no way, you live there, and we got the maps up, and I think just immediately every day, like on sets, age and position in life, they don't matter. You know, people just get on, and when you're a nice person, you know, you get on with people. And yeah, no, I love Nigel. I love everyone that I worked with on that.
Love you too, man.
Yeah, I love you, mate. I love you too, Dom.
Love you too. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. So yeah, I guess lastly, I'll go back to you, Jack. Where can people find you on social media?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. That's the one I use mainly. I don't really use too much social media. I'm on it, but I don't use it that much. Instagram's the one I use the most. So it's Jack O Rowan. And you know, if you search up Jack Rowan, it will come up. And I'm the same on Twitter, Jack O Rowan, but I don't really use Twitter. It's not for me. But yeah, Instagram mainly.
You, Nigel?
Yeah, well, I'm not a great social media person, but I'm on all them things as well. I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook. I have a Facebook page as well. But again, I'm not a great. I just like to look about and see things that I'm interested in. I'm very boring that way. So, but that's where I am. You know?
I feel you both. I understand. It's social media is very hard if you want to be, you know, active and try to influence. It's a very hard thing to do, and I'm the same way. I kind of more of I look, and every once in a while I'll say something, but it's exhausting, honestly.
I always scared of saying something that's controversial. I'm always concerned. Should have read this. Should have read,
Yeah.
That's why I prefer Instagram, because you can sort of at least see pictures and at least see someone's life through pictures. You get. I'm not really one for Twitter. I kind of not really a political person nor a serious person. I like to be quite naive and, you know, ignorant in a good way, you know. So Twitter sometimes scares me just so I don't even have the app, but I'm on it. You know, the worst thing they could have done is verify me, because now they can't take that out. They can't take that away. So now I don't have to do anything on it. You know what I mean? It's because it's there, you know. But yeah, mainly I like Instagram though. I like Instagram.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys stopping by and taking the time out. This is really fun. And I know it's gonna sound weird, but I love accents, man. And the Irish and British accents always been a favorite. And I did an ancestry not that long ago. I'm like 6% Irish, you know. So like,
whoa, good man.
Yeah, and I really like your accent as well, Dom. Like I'm the same as you. Like accents, I always love accents. You know, because
Dom, this man is a brilliant. He's brilliant at accents. He was able to mimic anybody on set. This is Jack. So you know, he really is a top class actor, and these accents were brilliant. And
accents are special as well. Accents are special because I would walk down the street, or Nigel would walk down, Dom, in wherever we live, and we sort of sometimes forget that to other people in the world, our accent is so exciting and magical. And I think same for me. I love America anywhere. Do you know what I mean? Ireland, Welsh, Scottish, anything. I just love listening to accents. They're very musical. And as Nigel said, I like to imitate a few.
Where are you, Dom? Where are you out there, Dom?
I'm in Nashville, Tennessee.
Nashville, Tennessee. I love Tennessee. Been to Memphis a couple of times.
Yeah, it's great. I lived in Utah for part of my childhood, so like I don't really have a Southern accent completely, and I don't really have like a West Coast accent. So no one ever knows where I'm from in America unless I tell them. So it's kind of fun. I can just kind of like, yeah, I'm from Minnesota, you know.
Yeah.
It's great.
But yes, everyone check out Boys of County Hell, April 22nd, Shudder.
Yeah.
Go watch it. It's great. It's a fun time. As weird as that sounds, but if you love horror like I love horror, you'll love the movie. And once again, I appreciate you guys taking the time.
Tom, it's lovely to meet you, talk to you, and thank you very much for everything.
An absolute pleasure, Dom. Thank you.
Yeah.
You.